Hi, I'm Carol Bell, and we're here today at the Rolling Hills Zoo with Bob Jenkins. He's the executive director out here. And Bob, you have, first of all, thank you so much for letting us come out here today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you guys here.
Thank you. So, I hear you have some exciting stuff going on.
We have some very exciting stuff going on. We had a new Pride of Lions come in on the 5th of the month, and they went on, two of the two females went on exhibit yesterday, and they're out in the exhibit today for the second time.
That's very exciting. We've been watching them run around and play, and they're adorable, but they're giant, not gentle giants, are they?
No,
so,
no.
What kind of safety precautions do you have to have for these cats?
Well, you have to make sure every day before they come out that you check the mesh, the barrier, and what have you. You have to have all kinds of locks and gates in place in order to move the animals around. And then the most important thing is that you have safety procedures that the staff does not violate. They have to check locks 3 times, they have to open gates, they have to talk to each other when they're moving the animals around. And you don't go inside and play with them.
Even though they look nice and cuddly, they're not to pets.
No, it's you have to understand, even though the 2 girls were born at the Oregon Zoo and the male was born at the New York Zoo, these are still wild cats, and they will react just like a wild lion would in Africa.
It's so cool that they're here in Salina. So if they're just in the cage, what kind of activities do they do? Because if the keepers can't interact with them really, but they can.
Yep. The keepers interact with them on a very great deal, but we always make sure that there's a barrier between the two for safety's sake. They do engage in a variety of enrichment ideas. They will hide food out into the exhibit that they have to hunt for. One of the things that they really like are smells and what have you. We use a variety of perfumes and exotic spices that they can go around and sniff. And in fact, the cheaper the perfume, the better. So we buy it by the 5-gallon bucket. That kind of thing. But by the same token, they engage in a lot of medical behaviors. They stand up against the mesh, they show their paws, they open their mouths so that we can take a look and what have you. This allows us to keep tabs on their health without having to knock them down and take them to the hospital.
That's very cool. So when they're out here in the cage, what kind of things do they do? You just let them do whatever they want?
Well, basically it's their home. When all is said and done. There are things that we do with them to provide them with activities and stuff, but it's a little known fact about lions that they rest or sleep at least 20 hours a day. So they just kind of laze about, so to speak, and what have you. But they have our visitors come out, move around, etc. They have the wild geese flying overhead that now will avoid the exhibit. They won't go in it, that kind of thing. But basically they have pretty much the life of a lion that you would see in Africa.
Okay, very good. So, Bob, what do the lions eat?
Basically, they eat meat when all is said and done. They're meat eaters, they're predators from the savannah. They eat especially prepared beef-based meat that is designed to kind of replicate what they would see in the wild from antelope, that they would normally hunt. It's vitamin enriched, mineral enriched, etc. But basically, when all is said and done, meat.
All right. So when they do their enrichment activities, I know when I was here before, some of the animals paint. What would you do with these with the lions?
Well, these guys are new. We don't know quite yet what they will do for enrichment activities. So we have the usual kinds of things. One of the things that the public can get engaged in is the making of cardboard animals that have food items inside that the lions come out and kind of destroy as if they would on the savannah. That gives them an activity that's a lot of fun, and the public gets to come, make it. They see it put into the exhibit, and then they watch the lions come out and attack it.
That sounds fun. When the lions were in isolation here, when you first got them, how do you know when they're ready to be put out?
Well, basically, we're on lion time. And in fact, we're on lion time right now. They're telling us what they're ready to do and what they're willing to do. But in fact, because we're a member of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, we participate in a species survival program for lions. And so these lions are actually quarantined in Chicago before coming here. They could go straight into the exhibit. And then once the staff got them in there, they wanted to test whether they could shift back and forth and what have you. These guys are actually so adapted to this kind of situation that they're out probably 5 days sooner than most other big cats would be.
So now I'm here with Brenda Gunder, and she is the curator of animals. So Brenda, thank you for coming and talking to us about these
Absolutely,
lions.
no problem.
So let's talk a little bit about their transport here to Kansas. I understand from the press release they were brought here from Chicago. What else can you tell us?
Well, the process actually has been going on for a few months. There's a lot of logistics that go into moving them. As the receiving institution, we arranged all the crates to go there so that they could be trained, and they all voluntarily entered their transport crate, which is really great for us to know that they willingly participated up there and had some kind of a training background. And once loaded, then they came down on 2 different vehicles together, and some of their staff came, their keepers came, which was also nice, so they can see those familiar faces here. And then after they were here, it was just unloading and kind of getting them into their building. But it's a lot of months in process, communicating with facilities, letting other facilities know from Chicago to here that we're going to be traveling by them in case there's things that we might need to stop for, or if we have a flat tire or something like that. But all that went well, and they traveled overnight and arrived here safely.
Good deal. So how did the Rolling Hills Zoo get chosen to home these?
So we are part of the Species Survival Plan with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and we are an accredited zoo. And through that organization, they recommend animals to come to us. The lions, so we had our old male who was almost 22 when he passed, our last male when he passed away. And we had been communicating with them for months, and they knew that he was aging, and it was just, we were just on, again, that lion time everybody talks about. We weren't in a rush to do anything. They knew they were waiting. And Chicago, Lincoln Park was also okay with waiting because they were transitioning to do some new exhibitry. So it worked out perfectly for us not to have to rush. They weren't in a rush. We just, we were committed to Matamba at the time, and we allowed him to live out his full life. And then once that process happened, we took a look at our exhibit and made some changes, upgraded a little bit here and there, got ready for some younger lions, because we had young lions at one time, but through their whole life here, we let them age and enjoy their life here. And then once they got here, it's just a matter of getting them used to their space. So.
Okay, so let's talk about the 2 that are behind us. What are their names and what do they weigh?
So Zalika is the dominant female. She's a little over 400 pounds, and Kamali is the less dominant of the 2, and she's around 370, 380.
Okay, and then there's one that's not quite ready to come out yet. What's he all about?
Zahar, that's the male, and the male, he's a little less comfortable right now, and I think it has to do with he's the protector of the pride. And so he's a little more skittish in general, and that's his personality. That's what they were shared the information from Lincoln Park. And so we are allowing him a little more time to get comfortable. I already saw some improvements this morning. He was much calmer, quieter with the routine. He saw the routine yesterday with the girls going out, and he could see them the whole time. And that's important that he can know where they are. And then once they came in last night and everybody was fed, he was, I think this morning, again, the routine happened. He was like, okay, now I see you guys aren't scary.
Yeah.
So it'll be a little bit longer before we allow him some time in the yard to explore, and then we'll reunite the 3, and that way everybody knows where every space is, where they can go lay down, have their own location if they want to separate. A lot of times they'll end up laying together as well.
So you won't let him out with these 2 females together at first?
At first, we'll allow him time to explore and know that where they are, and then we'll put them all out.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Well, Brenda, thank you so much for all of your advice and wisdom about these animals. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.